right, everybody, welcome back to the Leader Living Life Podcast. We've got a great episode for you today, talking to a new friend of ours and a really cool dude. I think you guys are going to like hearing his story, but particularly his work to create Project Canine Hero, which will allow him to discuss the mission and what that's about. But a great charity organization. Jason, it's too simple to say it's just a charity because you guys are doing quite a bit of hands-on work in organizing in what you do. So we also have Alex joining us today. So Alex, if you'll do a brief introduction, and then we'll turn it over to Jason Johnson, who's the founder and CEO, to introduce himself and tell us a little about him.
Sure. How's it going, guys? My name is Alex Riebsane, and I'm now a senior at UNCC studying computer science with a concentration in cybersecurity and a minor in military science.
And Alex, why the military science piece? Like, what's the relationship there?
So I'm doing the military science minor because I'm in the ROTC program as what's called a progression cadet. So my goal is at the end of the year to commission as an officer in the Army. And I only had to take one more class to solidify that as a minor.
Okay, perfect. Jason, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Jason Johnson, and I am the founder and CEO of Project Canine Hero. But I started as a young man growing up in Michigan to a family of factory workers. My father worked at General Motors. My grandma and grandpa worked at General Motors, and all my aunts and uncles worked there. And I decided at a young age that that is not the path that I wanted to do for life, that I wanted to go out and see the world and do something outside the automobile factory industry. Both of my grandfathers were war veterans. One served in the U.S. Navy as a CB in World War II in Guam, and the other served in the United States Marine Corps during the Korean War. And hearing their stories growing up, I knew at a very young age that I wanted to be a soldier. And as soon as I could, I joined the United States Army my senior year of high school when I was still 17 under the delayed entry program. And I went on to be a United States Army military police officer, which was the career path I wanted to do at the time because I wanted to get out and be a civilian law enforcement police officer. At that time, I didn't know that there was canine programs. I was from a small town that didn't have a canine program. And when I got in the military, that was kind of my first experience learning about working dogs. And during my 5 years of service, I traveled all over. Started out in Germany, was in a military intelligence unit over there, Skiff 174, Wiesbaden, Mainz, Germany. And it did protection there, kind of a skiff entry and exit, and not really an opportunity to work a dog. And then I went back to Fort McClellan and worked the road a little bit and started working at the military police schoolhouse, then on to Fort Rucker, where I was a patrol supervisor and actually supervised some of the canine units at a time that were on the shift with me, but at no time was ever given an opportunity to really actually work a dog on my own. So I got out of the military with a little bit less than 5 years, or right at 5 years tour, and wanted to get in civilian law enforcement. Tested really well. We'd moved up to Washington State outside Fort Lewis area, and I started at Puyallup Police Department in 1999. And there, as soon as I could, I started quarrying in the late 90s and, being the bike decoy. I was the youngest person on the department, and of course, just fresh out of the military, they were eyeing me up to be that person to put on the bike sleeve and lay tracks. And it was great because I started getting the experience I wanted. Other than supervising some canines, a patrol supervisor in the Army, I got the experience hands-on to getting bit by a dog and going forth. And I logged hundreds of hours of training throughout my first couple years of law enforcement, setting myself up to become a canine handler and become a canine trainer. And that's really what you got to do to get in. You're not going to walk into any police department and think you're going to walk into a canine spot. You have to show hard work and dedication to the craft and learn it. So I did that, went to training on my own time for years. Really worked hard at setting myself up for when an opportunity came along that I would get it, and it did. I moved over to Yakima Police Department at January 2003. that's still within Washington State, and was given the opportunity to become the first narcotics canine handler they've ever had on the patrol division in the history of that department.
Oh, that's cool.
Tested with a bunch of other people. I showed my experience, what I had been working in the canine unit at Pierce County Metro Canine since 1999, the dozens of classes that I went to on my own time, the hundreds of training I went to on my own time, and the hundreds, if not thousands, of training hours I logged, working dogs, handling dogs, being bit by dogs, and everything that I could. And so once that was granted, we went out and went to the school, and I got a canine partner named Flash who really changed my life. And Canine Flash was a pet rescue who was going to be put down just a day before euthanization. We were looking for dogs in shelters, and Flash tested really well. She had a lot of animal aggression, but we looked for drives like hunt, air scent, prey, and retrieve, and Flash maxed all those out. So we took a chance on her, and she ultimately became my partner. And we're the only team in our class to graduate with 100%. And over her career at Yakima Police Department, working 2 narcotic drug task force, being assigned a little bit with the SWAT team and the patrol division, she had over 3,000 deployments and 2,200 fines.
Wow.
And,
what kind of dog was she?
Flash was a mixed dog of just a true mutt, and she mainly a German Shepherd and maybe a Lab or a cattle dog mix. Flash, we have a book out called Canine Flash Becomes a Hero. She went on to win the 2018 Law Enforcement Dog of the Year in America. We're featured on the Hallmark Channel. Her story is all over. People can go to our media page, and we'll get into that a bit later and see some of her stories, from Hallmark Channel to Headline News to the Today Show in New York City. And so Flash, I actually lost Flash for a little bit. And after a few years I was also on the SWAT team at Yakima PD, worked honor guard. I was a training officer, and I was a defensive tactics instructor. Did all those things. Kind of about the age of 33, I kind of did everything in law enforcement I wanted to do. I had about 10 years in, just close to 10 years in 2008, and 15 years kind of since I joined the military, being a military police officer. And I was recruited by the U.S. Department of State in Iraq to be a personal protection handler for the U.S. ambassador. And I went down to Moyock, North Carolina. Blackwater had the contract at that time. I did a 1-month job interview. I had to do the PSS, which is the personal security detail, which involves all the shooting, the driving, defensive tactics stuff. And then I also had to do the canine portion of that. And I came out very well on that. Was the only person that really took on a canine during that summer that year, and went over to Iraq and did missions all throughout the country as a explosive detection canine handler for the U.S. government, working for the U.S. Department of State, doing some missions for the CIA and some for the DoD as well. When time came to leave Iraq, I had a job offer with the same company to go be the personal security protection detail handler for Ambassador Eikenberry in Afghanistan. So I went over to Kabul. I continued to work missions and red zones on low pro, details. We're talking 2 to 4 people. I did the elections in Afghanistan in 2009. I was one of the primary dog teams used for that. And I was recruited by the ATF to come back to the United States and be an instructor at the National Academy, which was just, it's kind of like for fighter pilots coming back to Top Gun. So I went back and became an ATF instructor, course developer, Front Royal, Virginia. Trained hundreds, if not thousands, of dogs while I was there. We're talking about ATF, CIA, FBI, U.S. Marshals, NGA, 21 international countries with the Department of State Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program. And then we had a homemade explosive course we taught in Yuma, Arizona for every military working dog team that was getting ready to deploy to a high threat scenario. I worked about 1,200 teams over in that. Got a lot of experience, did just about everything I wanted to do there until about 2015. And I took a job with Homeland Security, TSA, to be a field canine coordinator with the passenger screening program. So by now you've probably been to some airports and have seen the dogs checking passengers coming in the checkpoints. I used to work in that program and kind of help manage it, doing red zone or red team testing, doing certifications, helping set up checkpoints and things of that nature. And come about that time, the one big thing about that job is I was also a point of contact for when a dog team had injuries, or when they needed a new dog. I would take them out of service and get them in school to get a new dog. And, it occurred to me that we as a government, whether it be military, police, or federal government, we're working the dogs up until the point they can no longer work, much sometimes like we do with a soldier. And then when it was time for them to retire, we would simply discard them, and they may go to their handler, but we are no longer taking care of any financial responsibility for any of their medical conditions. And that includes if that's something that's happened to them in the line of duty, which we can get into. We have some stories on that. So I became that person that they would come to. I would remove them from service. I would get them in school to get a new dog, but I would also remove them from financial liability from the U.S. government. And I thought, I just really didn't feel that that was the right path for these heroes who served our country so well. So in late 2015, I got the idea about Project Canine Hero. And by March of 2nd, as our official date to start with the IRS, I officially formed Project Canine Hero, which is now a national 501c3 nonprofit.
Wow, that is an interesting history, man. I can see how this very organically became a passion because you saw the performance of these dogs and the commitment they had to their handlers and to the job they did. And I never really thought about the what after. So we, local stories about the handler, it becomes the family dog type thing. And I spent a bunch of time on your website too and got really educated about the number of dogs that come out of service. And sometimes the particularly for the military guys, the handler may lose their life in the course of duty and end up with an injured dog that's now in recovery and has ongoing medical care costs. It was a blind spot because I didn't live through the career you had, and hopefully for the listeners that it wakes them up. Like, hey guys, there's a bunch of amazing dogs that I don't know what the cost is in investment in training in these dogs, but I would assume it's in the tens of thousands of dollars that are now deserve a retirement, right? Deserve to have some downtime and be rewarded for all the work that they did.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And we have many dogs in our program, all branches of service, state, local, and federal law enforcement. And some of them cost over $100,000. If you look at the time, just like training a special operations soldier, the personnel you have to have, the equipment you have to have. Our now ambassador Canine Axel worked at the ATF Special Response Team, Team 1 out of Detroit. He can repel from helicopters. He did 200 high-risk missions here in the United States. Those are search warrants that at the highest level of finding America's most wanted criminals. When the ATF SRT team comes to your house, you're usually in a lot of trouble. And he did 200 of those, and he lived through it. Not all of his partners did live through it. Some of his partners had passed in the line of duty, shot in the line of duty. We have Axel here with us today. And, now he has lung cancer. Now he has megaesophagus, pannus, dermatitis. His bills are up there over $10,000 a year. And he also didn't have a home to go to when he retired because his handler was getting a brand new SRT dog. And dogs like that don't exactly get along. So not only are we helping pay medical bills, food, and death benefit assistance, we're also helping rehab and rehome those heroes who need so.
Yeah, that's awesome. Would you tell us a little bit about kind of get into the details of creating the organization? Not necessarily about, I think a lot of us understand the paperwork. Those of us that are entrepreneurs have done all this paperwork. The 501c3, 503c. No, wait, was it
501c3.
501c3. Thank you.
Yeah.
But getting through that bureaucratic aspect is one thing, but building a sustainable organization is a completely different effort. And I liken it to an entrepreneurial effort. And maybe you could tell us about the work that went into that, Kind of where'd you start? Who'd you recruit to help you? How'd you get it going?
So I didn't exactly quit my government job, when I started it. I did get permission from DHS, to do that. Of course, there's some rules when you're a government employee.
Sure.
You can't do any of it on your work time. You can't mix it. You can't talk about it where you're at work. You can't do all these things, right? And so you have to follow those, and I did. And so on my own time, and obviously, and not on my own dime, on my personal pocket, I filled all the paperwork that you talked about. But there's a lot more to that. You got to start with the logo. You got to start with the website, email addresses. I sought out some people. One of the best things I have is 2 people that are with me today. I had a CPA attorney lawyer in Detroit who helped me get my articles of incorporation, helped me get, to this day, I call him with every legal question I have. If he doesn't know, he finds out. I think when you're running a 501c3 of our size, the legal aspect of it is hugely important.
Sure.
What can we do and what can't we do? I had a personal friend that I grew up with, family friend, who got into graphic design and websites. So he did some pro bono work for me. He's now our director of marketing. He's been with me since day one. Him and I created the logo together. We created the website together. We've created all the content you see together on there. And, those are things I couldn't do by myself, but those are things we didn't have money to go out and have somebody help do that. So finding people in your own network who are going to help you, believe in your dream, believe in you as a person.
Right.
And so for the first 12 dogs, we didn't have any money in the bank yet. I took $500 in my own pocket, opened up a corporate bank account, a business bank account. And now that the 501c3 owns, and I needed dogs in the program to show people that we had them. So being a former instructor, I knew all kinds of retired dogs. So I reached out to 12 of the ones that I knew the most. Canine Flash was our first recipient. She's retired police canine who really inspired me to start it, because here I had my own police canine living at home with Lyme disease, seized millions of dollars in assets, gets absolutely not one dime in help with her medical care for over her 3,000 appointments and 2,200 fines.
Oh, wow.
And we've had dogs in our program to go on, and we can talk about that later. We've Kirby, who's went on Philadelphia drug tests, where seized over $100 million of assets and money, currency in her career. Still no help. But we're working with Congress on that, and we can talk about that here shortly. But really seeking out the people to help you. So I seeked out 12 canines who were retired, who I had trained, worked with, knew of, and told them what I was getting into and what I was trying to start, where I needed permission to borrow their bio, their photos, their background. Had no money in the bank to start, but we needed to show people that, hey, we got 12 dogs and we're working on taking care of them. And over a short period of time, we did start taking in money and we did start taking care of them. But I couldn't guarantee those people that at that time, because, this was an idea in my head and I was just trying to get it started. But we had to show that, we do have dogs in need. And so we started with the first 12 dogs, and then it started to really grow. And in 2016, our first year, we took in about $50,000, and we started making some apparel. We started selling, challenge coins and T-shirts and hats, and doing some fundraisers, all while I was still a government employee. I felt good enough about where we're going in January 17 that I quit the United States government, which is hard to walk away from. I was a mid-level GS-13 when I was at ATF. I was an I-band in Homeland Security, had a very comfortable salary, very comfortable retirement, would have been set for the rest of my life. But, right before the age I turned, hadn't even turned 42 yet, I was still 41. I actually just walked away to pursue this dream of Project Canine Hero, which paid off immensely that year. In 2017, I still volunteered my time. I volunteered my time in the first 3 years, but I was using my skills in contracting as an explosive detection canine subject matter expert, contracting, working for a few other companies who I'm thankful to this day, which would be iCanine Extreme Concepts. Thankful for to this day, because without that salary, I wouldn't have been able to volunteer my first 3 years because we didn't have any money to pay me a salary. But in 2017, we did $500,000 in revenue, which really allowed us to expand the program, started a direct mail campaign. which really started to get our mission statement out to people. Like you said, a lot of people, even if they're military, law enforcement, or elected officials, they don't know that canine heroes aren't being taken care of properly in retirement.
Yeah.
They just think the handler gets them and whatever happens, happens. Well, for the most part, the handler does get them, but that doesn't mean that police officer, that soldier, that airman, or that Marine has the money to take care of them. And that's where we come into play. And so 18 came along. We had Flash up for the Law Enforcement Dog of the Year in America, and she won, which gave us huge exposure. And then that year we did about 1.4 million. And last year we haven't got the 990 done, but I know we're going to be close to 2 million in donations. And we are now at 83 full-time program members.
Wow.
This year I plan on taking 40 new canine heroes with special needs or financial burden in. We get applications almost every day now, every week. And we've done 18 so far since January 1st. I need to spread it out, because throughout the year, the goal is 40. Some of these dogs, a great deal of expense. Yesterday I paid $4,000. Canine Roby is in the MedVet Center in Cincinnati ICU. People who go to our social media, Project Canine Hero, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you'll see the pictures I've been putting up. And, unexpected bill yesterday, $4,000. I'm expecting a few more thousand to come in. We get those all the time. 2 Sundays ago, we had a dog have a emergency bloat surgery. Ended up being $8,000 total for everything.
Yeah.
That was an unexpected charge. However, we have the money in the bank. We have the supporters and donations for us to say, yes, we're here to save that dog's life. Can you imagine, and I'm sure you know some law enforcement officers, and I know you know a lot of military, they don't have $8,000 in the bank for emergency surgery on a Sunday to save their hero's life.
No.
And that never existed before, but now they can reach out to Project Canine Hero. And if we don't have the money set aside for that, we can raise the money. We can do a fundraiser. We can put their picture of the dog out there and what the needs are. And people are so giving. People really tend to like police canines and military working dogs, sometimes more than people, which, is good for us. Sometimes I like them more than people.
Yeah, I've been there.
And, they want to help them. And anyone who's ever worked with a military working dog or a police canine knows that these are such selfless animals that they'll put their life on the line and never think twice about it. We just took in Canine Chief from Moses Lake PD. Great story. He got shot in the face in the line of duty, lost an eye, broke a jaw, had to retire at the age of 4. His handler did get him back, but he can no longer work. And the department, bought a new canine, but they don't have funds set aside to take care of Chief the rest of his life. So Project Canine Hero will be paying for all of Chief's bills. And here's a dog who, in some sense, jumped in front of a bullet for his handler and took one to the face.
Yeah, that's, we have a Rottweiler. We have 3 dogs running around here. Mm-hmm. And she has that selfless commitment to watching out for us, but also she had a rear cruciate ligament surgery, and it was $2,000 or $3,000, I think.
Yeah.
So I can imagine for these dogs that are working hard every day, the risk of injury and the magnitude of the injuries. Particularly, it's unimaginable that dog took a shot to the head and pulled through. But at 4, probably has a very long life ahead of him.
Yeah, hopefully.
Still relatively young dog.
Yeah.
But throughout his life is going to require pretty expensive care, potentially, beyond the means of some of the law enforcement, which is, that's a whole nother podcast on how I feel those guys should get paid. Or a military handler. And for you guys to help them make it possible for that dog to live that life, that's pretty amazing. That's a monumental thing you guys are doing.
Well, it's just so rewarding personally, having all the jobs I did have in the military, the police. And when I was in the police, I really had it made being a SWAT canine guy. There's only one SWAT canine guy in your whole department, and then going on to Blackwater and being a canine handler for the U.S. ambassador. I mean, at that time, I didn't feel it got any more important. I didn't think it got any bigger than that. I didn't know and then going to ATF to be an instructor to teach all those guys. I thought, man, I'm really on the path. But it wasn't until, I really started running Project Canine Hero that I knew what, being rewarded for your work was all about. And, you touch lives in this job that I have now daily. You inspire people daily. You inspire families, and you're helping them. Nobody could, you have your dogs, and nobody can put a price on that.
Exactly.
Could you imagine a dog like Chief, who maybe saved that handler's life by taking the bullet? I mean, as they're pursuing a suspect, turns around and fires at the officer and hits the dog, takes a bullet for him. Can you imagine the bond between you and that dog? So they're going to do whatever they have to do to make sure the dog gets the best care they can, regardless of their income situation. Right. I don't think any of them deserve to go in personal debt over it. I do know this for a fact, working at every level. You can go back to the military, you can go back to your police department, and you can go back to the federal government, but they're not going to help you with the financial bills. There's no budget there for it. They don't have it, and they're not going to do it. And so that's why I really strongly feel how important our mission is to make sure they do have a resource when it becomes so tough that they're faced with that decision of putting them down or getting them the help they need, that we're here to help.
Yeah. And I honestly, I didn't know that. I assumed that there was, and I had no reason to base my assumption but it seems obvious to me that there would be some type of ongoing care for them. Could you talk a little bit about some of your legislative work on how you're trying to help remedy that situation?
Yeah, so like I was saying, I've had this idea for over 3 years about working with Congress to establish a law. But when you're a federal employee, that is not something you can come forward and just start talking to your congressman
about. Good point, yeah.
They're not going to, they're going to freak out when you're like, hey, I'm talking to Congress about how we should be taking care of retirement. Because what happens is the agencies I'm working for are the ones not doing it. However, I'm not here to blame them or point a finger. There's just no program in place and there's no law set up.
No funding for them.
So I have the background and the experience to talk about that, in Congress. So I've made over 12 trips to Congress over the last 3 years, telling my story, telling the story of Project Canine Hero, telling about the dogs in our program, and highlighting their service and what some of the needs are. We got, about 2 years ago, a lot of traction. At the time, it was Congressman Joe Barton out of Texas. His chief of staff, his name's Ryan Thompson. And Ryan really believed in what we were doing. Ryan's a former Marine. He went to Texas A&M. We worked a lot with Texas A&M. And Ryan really, really believed in our mission and me personally. So over a period of time, a year or two ago, Congressman Barton retired, and Congressman Ron Wright came into that district in Texas, which is kind of the Dallas-Fort Worth, Arlington area down there. And he still believed in us as far as what we're going to do. So we've had the bill on the table, and we were going to call it the Canine Flash Act after Flash, who inspired us to start this program. But after the incident in Syria with Conan, which you might be familiar with, where we had a Delta Force dog go in and take out one of our high-level terrorists, and he was subsequently injured in that event, we started getting a lot more traction, because all of a sudden a military working dog was used in a high-level incident. And my take on that was, here's a dog who was just involved in an explosion. Do you know when he retires that there's no programs in place to care for him?
Yeah, nothing.
There's nothing there. And so that incident really helped. I was writing the bill with the legislative director of Congressman Wright's office, and we were going back and forth on how we wanted it. And we started with that incident, and then we went into setting up a funding plan for nonprofits like mine, and any nonprofit that helps retired military working dogs or federal law enforcement. So that's DOD, DOJ, DHS. Anyway, and it's federal money we're using, so at this time we had to keep it within the federal system. And so it's $5 million over 5 years. It's HR 5081, and we changed the name of the Canine Hero Act. And we kind of felt with the Conan incident, using that as a platform, it was a little more appropriate. And we introduced it in November of last year, and I was there at the press conference. They let me speak at it. It was such an honor because it's, you know, it's
That's
your
cool.
idea and you bring it to Congress. You know, my name doesn't necessarily go on the bill, but it is called the Canine Hero Act, and it is. I was there to speak, and we're still working hard. And for me, as the founder of this organization, some of this idea, I'm telling you, you know, it's in Congress. We have some great congressmen who are co-sponsors. Dan Crenshaw is one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Greg Pence is one, who's the vice president's brother. And I've met both of those gentlemen, and they're 100% on board. But we need more co-sponsors to get it to a vote. We need 60%. And I feel it's such a bipartisan, you know, it's a bipartisan bill. We're just trying to set some money aside to take care of military working dogs and federal police canines. The great thing about the bill, we were very strict on it because, you know, you get a lot of people accusing of fraud, waste, and abuse and everything else. So it clearly has to be spent on medical care only, office visits, prescriptions, surgeries, diagnostic, you know, x-rays, CAT scans, could be prescription food if it's, you know, medically prescribed by a doctor, 100%. So if we receive grant money for that, we have to show the bills that we spent in that for a military working dog or federal police canine. So I really love it. The other thing I love about it is it's open to every nonprofit that does what we do. So they can apply just like us. You get reimbursed the money you spend, and we're trying to set that aside. So as me, the founder, I'm still it's like the work's only halfway done. I have a bill that I really want it bad. It's been introduced. It's on the House floor, but now I need to encourage people to contact their senator or congressman to get out there and sponsor it so we can get this thing to a vote and get it passed into law. We set up a tab.
Could you give us the bill number again?
Yeah, this bill is HR 5081.
Yep.
And on our website at projectcaninehero.org, there's a tab on the drop down that says Canine Hero Act. And in the Canine Hero Act, you can read about the bills. I just spoke about it. You can actually click on the link that will take you to the government document to read the entire bill. But most importantly, we have a way to contact your state rep or your senator by looking them up and sending them something if someone's listening and wants to get involved. And we have a couple templates in there to help, you know, what you might want to say about supporting the Canine Hero Act, HR 5081.
Yeah,
and so
awesome.
We're working hard to get that done. I kind of feel like the first 3 years I'm halfway there, and now I got to see it through. And that will really help our program grow. Just even if we could get, say, $250,000 in grant money for that. Axel, who's, you know, $12,000 a year, it would pay for 100% of that for him. That's $12,000 we can spend on a state police canine, a local police canine, sheriff's department canine, or anything of that nature. So it's really going to help us take. We're at 83 dogs now. We have over 100, probably 125 applications in waiting today. I'll tell you, 50% of them would qualify for the Canine Hero Act. So we could take another, you know, 60 dogs or so in immediately and start helping them with medical funding if we could get this act to pass. So that's really going to make a dent in what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish. But for me, as the founder of this organization, when I left the government, it's really important, and we're talking about leadership now, it's really important. I don't want to be a guy who just raises money and pays dog bills. I wanted to change the way dogs, military working dogs, and police canines are treated in retirement for the rest of their lives. I wanted to leave an impact on our community that's going to be there long after I'm gone. And so I think, you know, we're going to keep trying to make sure this gets passed. And I have some other ideas down the road once we accomplish this one on how to help the state and local dogs on the state and local level through some of the drug money that we're seizing out on the streets, through our funds that we get through there, and how we can maybe take some of that and put that back into their healthcare.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. You know, you've always got a friend in us, so you can come back here anytime and really educate people on those new initiatives. One thing I'd like to ask, you know, you can feel the passion build through your career into this. And frankly, what you guys have accomplished in a very short period of time is pretty amazing. For the listeners that are maybe contemplating these types of efforts, could you maybe share with them what was the biggest challenge, and then second to that, what was the biggest mistake? And I don't ask that question to somehow cause embarrassment, but to let people hear, listen, this was hard. This didn't happen easy, and there were missteps, and you never gave up. You never took those hits and decided, well, this is just too hard. Could you kind of talk about those two questions?
For sure. The number one thing that I think has made us so successful is personal connections. I think my personal connections that I built over my now 27-year career, absolutely key. Whether it be people who believe in us, the dogs in our program. We talked about the Canine Hero Act. If I hadn't made a personal connection with the right chief of staff in the right office, I would have never got this done. I had talked to other chiefs of staff and other legislators who told me it would never happen. I talked to people in the government that told me that it would never happen. Like, that is a dream. There's no way they're going to do that.
So you had to push through. You had to push through rejection.
Yeah, much
and no's. Yeah,
absolutely. And people that I've worked with, people that would say, "Hey, that's a good idea," but that's not happening. And I think you just got to stick with your guns and say, well, I'm going to keep talking to people and keep trying until I make it happen. And that's the kind of attitude I have in life. But when I met the right chief of staff, because really the chief of staff kind of controls the office and controls the legislative director, who can ultimately bring the idea to the congressman. I mean, you can meet congressmen all the day long, and I've met a lot of them, and you can run an idea by them. But the truth is, if you don't have the right person on their staff on board with your ideas, it's very hard to accomplish. And working with Ryan Thompson, chief of staff of Congressman Reich's office, I started when he was actually with a different congressman, in the same district, but we went through 2 phases in that period of time, and we still got it done. Because we both believe so much in what we're trying to accomplish. So the personal connections, and that goes with the sponsorships, that goes with getting on podcasts like this, that goes with everything that we do. Personal connections are huge. So if you're a veteran out there, or an entrepreneur, or someone wanting to get in business, don't burn the bridges. Try to keep everything positive with everybody, and you just never know when you're going to need a favor from somebody, and go cash that in.
That's great feedback.
Yeah, and the other thing is, it's a two-way street. Don't be all take and no give. Every day I'm looking a way to give to my other business partners and our sponsors and our collaborative partners. We're fortunate. We have over 50 collaborative corporate entities that help Project Canine Hero. Now, I'd like to make that 100 by next year. And that's a lot of businesses. And some of them are huge. We have Spectrum Brands is a large company who does a lot of small household items. They make like the Furminator. You might have a Furminator brush that gets the thing out.
Yeah, we got one.
Okay, so they make the Furminator amongst dozens of other things. They pay for our fulfillment for all of our stuff in our shop, all of our shirts, all of our stuff that we send out with Project Canine Hero on it. They 100% pay for those fulfillment center in Kansas City, for it to stay there, for it to ship, and for the postage. That is one heck of a donation, because the first 2 years I would pack it up in my kitchen and send it out, and we were always afraid to sell too much because it was too much work for me. And now we can do 20 orders a day, and all I need to do is make sure it stays stocked up. Again, personal connections through there. I went and I spoke at their marketing department. They asked me what was the one thing I needed. I said fulfillment. And next thing I know, the vice president's calling me saying, we're going to take care of that for you for as long as you would like, which is just a huge donation. Yeah,
that's amazing. Very nice of those guys.
Frees me up. This year, bicycle cards. We have our own deck of Project Canine Hero cards come on bicycle.
Oh, that's awesome.
We've been working on it. I spoke at an event where the president of Bicycle Cards was there talking about Project Canine Hero. It was the post 9/11 deck of the frontline leaders. The bicycle came out with, and I'm the 9 of spades on that deck. It's a playoff of the 2003 deck of the Iraqi Most Wanted. And,
I still have my deck from Desert Storm.
Yeah. So exactly. So I'm fortunate to be the 9 of spades on the new deck, and the personal connections through that alone. I got up there with all kinds of other entrepreneur leaders, and he believed so much in our mission. He said, "Oh, I want to do your own deck of cards." And so this summer we're going to have that come out, and the face cards will be our heroes, some of our dogs on them, and proceeds from that will come back to our organization.
Very cool.
With some of our projects. So those are the things that you just never know who's in the room, who you're speaking to. And both of those were talks that I had no idea big things were going to happen, but every week things like that happen. So stay positive and do that. As far as mistakes, it's very difficult on the business side to say, because everything is an ups and down learning curve. And when you're doing this,
exactly, you
can ask someone's opinion and you can get 100 different answers on how you should proceed. We're trying our hardest. Some people will tell me, "Oh, you shouldn't partner with that company because they're a little too much on the edge." And for example, Black Rifle Coffee's on the cards with us. I had some good friends a couple years ago say, you shouldn't really do any work with Black Rifle because they're a little more edgy, and some of their messaging may not go along with Project Canine Hero, where we're a little more bipartisan down the middle because of things. Well, we didn't do any work with them, and they took off and blew up like no one's business.
Yeah.
And it would have been nice to have been partnered with them early on. But we still partner with Nine Line. We still partner with Grunt Style, Authentically American. We have shirts and stuff with all of those guys. And you really can't be afraid of just telling people who you are. I think maybe early on I was afraid to, for example, I have a history of Blackwater. I'm the vice president of the Blackwater alumni now. There's a lot of great business opportunities that comes along with that job for me. There's a lot of great things from my nonprofit that comes along with me. But if I overly promote that, some people might look at that in a very negative light and say, well, he used to be a Blackwater canine handler? Not knowing who I worked for, like the U.S. Ambassador, Department of State.
Right.
Not knowing what my missions were, just thinking that you're a bad guy because of it. Where at the time we were at the highest level of canine in the world we could be.
Yeah, totally.
So, but I still to this day don't promote that a whole lot. I don't have that on my LinkedIn profile per se. I don't have that in a lot of my bios, depending on what the bio's for. So I think that's one. The other one is I didn't take a salary for the first 3 years, and I said I wouldn't until we made over $1 million a year. That was a little advantageous for me, because what happened was all I did was put myself in personal debt. Even the first couple of years, I didn't really want to spend money on gas because I was making money, or money on trips or travel. I didn't do that until going into the third year, into the fourth year. If I was doing a book reading strictly for Project Canine Hero, I paid the gas, I paid my hotel, I paid my airline, and I paid all that. Put on my credit card if I had to, just to get this project going where I wanted it to go. To this day, I still owe some money on that credit card.
Understood, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I didn't have to do that the first 3 years, but I did. And, we have a board now who, after our third year, elected for me to take a salary, which I'm thankful for, because to get things like the Canine Hero Act, and now we're building a rehab rehoming center, which I do want to talk about before we go. This job's now 70 to 80 hours a week, and I can't have.
Right.
I have another job. I'm still the CEO of Paradigm Defense Concepts, and we have some great stuff going there with the veteran community as well. But I'm fortunate enough as a CEO of that position that I can do that from home and on the road in conjunction with Project Canine Hero, and I can always make Project Canine Hero my primary, which is what I do. And so I would say I made a mistake trying to make it look good that I wasn't taking a salary for 3 years when I had already quit my government job. And yes, I was making some money doing some consulting, some subject matter expert work. I had some contracts. But earlier on, if it was official business, I should have let the official business pay for it.
Right.
And I paid for it out of my own pocket. Now, some people say, hey, that's awesome. You're just trying to help. But we're all adults and we all have bills and we all have different things. So, I'm still in some personal debt for that, and I can't fix that now. And I can't get a larger salary when you have as a nonprofit leader. So I still have to hustle in my private CEO world as a director of that company to go out and, hold the classes we hold for like our K9 or our PSD courses. And I have to work hard there to make the extra money because I can't make it here. And so I would think that was a mistake. I should have just not worried about it. And after I quit my federal government job, start taking a modest salary, but letting Project K9 Hero pay the gas bill, pay for the hotel stay and all that, which I personally took care of.
Yeah. And, if I put my advisor hat on, the way I would advise anyone on those types of things is you have to have sustainability in mind. You're clearly not in this for the short run. You're building something, and you've said it yourself that is here after you're gone. And if you're taking on too much financial burden, it's not sustainable. So it's okay, and this is for the listener community. It's okay to have a business mindset and realize that there is a cost, there is overhead, and eventually, if this is where you're committing your time, those things have to be handled by the mission, right? By the initiative that you're trying to advance. So I think that's a great lesson that you're sharing there with people who would launch on this. It's okay if you don't take a salary, but by the same token, you have to get to a point as soon as possible where it's not creating a personal debt that may cause you, not you in particular because you're beyond this, Jason, but could cause somebody to abandon their mission because of the personal financial pressure becomes overwhelming.
That's 100% accurate, and I've seen that happen to people.
Right.
And luckily it hasn't happened to us, but I think I was more concerned about what our percentages were, where the money was going,
Sure,
or all that in the first couple of years. It's cool to say, hey, I'm the founder, I don't take a salary, but it's not that cool when you're not making much money and you're putting
the mortgage comes.
everything on your own tab.
Yeah, I agree. And so there was something you said that you wanted to cover as well as you were talking there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have our rehabilitation rehoming center, and so we have a tab for that on our website as well as projectk9hero.org. And what a lot of people don't really know is there is a 100% need for a location for retired police canines to go before they get rehomed. We get calls all the time from departments who may have had this dog and you can't stay with the handler for various reasons. It's aggressive with the kids. The handler's leaving law enforcement, getting a new job. He's getting a new dog. They don't get along. Nobody else there can handle him. These are all valid reasons why a dog cannot stay with his handler, and we see them. But right now, when I get that call, I have to look at our adoption process, and we have a great 50 vetting questions, and I'm very good at it, and I know what it takes to how to properly place a police canine with the right family.
It. Yeah.
But that's hard to do over the phone. When one, I haven't really seen the dog in person yet, and two, I may not know the adoption person yet. What I'm developing is a rehab rehoming facility with 14 kennels in it, and our admin office. We're at the $2 million mark a year, in fundraising, and we don't have an administrative office. We have employees that, and contractors and interns that work from home across the nation, where we need to be, to get it to the level I want to go to a $5-10 million, possibly even $20 million organization where we're taking care of hundreds of police dogs a year. We need to, if not 1,000 police dogs a year, we need to have a corporate space where we can be organized and where we can plan and have events. So if you go to our website, you'll see the rehab rehome facility. You can click down, and we got a nice little video fly around we're doing now. And this facility will be where police canines can go. It's not a long-term stay. It's where they go. And we got 2 adoption cabins coming in. So if you and your family want to adopt, say, man, we would love to adopt a police canine or retired military working dog. and we get one in and you're vetted out to be the right candidate, you can come to our facility outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee, stay with your family at the adoption cabin, get to know the dog for a few days. It's on 177 acres. We have walking trails. We have a memorial pond. We have some great outdoor activities where you can interact with the dog, with your children, and see if it's a good fit, not only for you, but for that dog before we turn it over to them. So I have never seen this done before this way across America with police canines. And it's something that we're developing and getting into right now. So what we're really looking for and help on that is corporate sponsors. I mean, we can sell t-shirts all day long. I can sell my children's book. We can take in donations. And we do have a capital campaign link on there for that. But we're looking for corporate sponsors who might want to put their name on the building, who might want to put their name on an adoption cabin. We have 6 total buildings out there, and there's a sponsorship opportunities, everything from, $5,000 or $10,000 up to $250,000 to $500,000 to $1 million. So we're going to make sure that we're definitely looking for those, seeking those out. And if anyone listening wants to get their company involved, please reach out to us directly and be a part of something that's going to really change the way police canines are taken care of.
Yeah. So a couple of takeaways, I think, of how people can help. And as soon as we're done here today, I'm going to go after this HR 5081 myself. Support the bill, the 5081. Obviously, any support that they can help you get on the corporate sponsorship side, as well as then on the website, there's opportunities either through merchandise or just a direct donation to do that, and help you guys out.
Yeah, there's plenty of opportunity. Some people want to just donate money. There's 2 different platforms. One is donation for our medical fund. One is donation to the capital campaign. They're on the separate pages. I'll tell you what, I'm really proud of our gear that we do have. We have shirts with grunt style 9-line apparel. We're starting to make some with authentically American. We cupware. One thing we didn't touch about, I trademarked RED, REDD. Remember every dog deployed. You'll see that, people like to wear red on Fridays. We took our own little spin on that. So we'd like to tell people to, if you want to support Red Friday, remember every dog deployed, check that out. We got everything.
I saw that. I thought that was was a great expansion of that. I love that.
Yeah, we love it. It's, I'd like to get that into a big box store, and I'm working with a couple of our other corporate, shirt partners to try to do that. I'm hoping that one day you're going to walk into some big box store and see that on a shelf and says that proceeds of this product goes back to Project Canine Hero and retired military working dogs and police canines. And that's ultimately one of my goals this year, is to get the red products that you're looking at into some of our out there for the nation to buy.
That's awesome. So Jason, how can people connect with your organization and follow you guys? For example, social media, those types of things.
Yeah, so we're on all social media platforms. It's at Project Canine Hero. So it's Project at Canine and Hero. You'll find us on Facebook. We're just under 50,000 followers on there right now. So give us a share and a like. We do a lot of information sharing there, as far as fundraising as well. We're on Instagram, also at Project Canine Hero. Sometimes we can't go into the stories as long as we can on the Facebook or do the fundraisers on there. So I encourage you to follow both. We're on Twitter. Again, sometimes on Twitter you can't explain the whole story, but we do pretty well on there as well. And on personal LinkedIn, we have Project Canine Hero, but my personal Jason Johnson page has over 20,000 something followers, all in our veteran, law enforcement, military community. So follow me on there, and we always post great things. And if anyone's also listening with my Paradigm Defense Concepts, I post opportunities for employment on there with our company or educational. We're working on a GI Bill funded VA program for explosive detection canine schools, PSD, and underwater diver. So GI Bill students or veterans who have the GI Bill could come get an education. I'm working with a couple of colleges as well. Come get an education and use their GI Bill money for something that might help them land a job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's some of my passion outside of Project Canine Heroes, helping veterans.
That's great.
And I do that through my private company.
That's awesome. So other than those things that we kind of rattled off here, is there any other things that people can do to help you guys out or help you advance your mission?
Yeah, we talked about the website. There's so much on that website that we're adding to every day. And I think, the website's kind of the baseline of everything, but the things that happen day to day go on social media. So even if you can't donate, sharing our story or hitting that share button and letting people know what's going on is just as appreciative as making a donation. If you know somebody who owns a company or is in a position to give back to our capital campaign, we need everything from a tractor with a brush hog to computers to desks, to metal for the roof. It's quite the project if you look at the video. And so anybody who's wanting to make a donation tax deductible to our 501c3, and it doesn't have to be money. It could be, like I said, it could be some equipment that helps us maintain the land. It can be office equipment. It could be, they might be a concrete contractor. They might do HVAC. Everything's going to be needed. And we want to make sure that we're also giving back to the people who donate to that as well by, mentioning their name and them as sponsors in our passion. But that's a large undertaking. I think that's going to take me a while, but I would encourage them to check out our website, projectcaninehero.org, capital campaign, and go around there and learn everything. And for those who have dogs in service, who might have a retired dog listening, we have a program adoption link at the bottom of our page, because a lot of people say, I have a dog, how do I get a help? Of course, it's retired police canines and military working dogs only. That does include search and rescue and arson detection. And then we also have an adoption application at the bottom of the page too, so they'll see that. So there's a lot of things to go on there and look at. Most importantly, I just really appreciate believing in me, believing in what my dreams are, and helping me make this a reality. And before we go, I have one thing to share with you guys.
Yeah, please do.
Today, one year ago today, I know we're watching some on video. This right here, this award I'm holding is the American Humane Hero Dog Awards Law Enforcement Dog of the Year 2018.
That's
and
cool.
So Flash had a heck of a career, but she passed away a year ago today.
Oh man!
On May 13th, 2019. She had an amazing career and amazing life. So I have no second guesses about it. But Flash, she really inspired me to start this foundation. And on Amazon, people can check out her book, Canine Flash Becomes a Hero. I'm working on a second book called Canine Flash, A Hero's Hero, which takes all the way from the Hero Dog Awards into the later processes of our foundation and up to the day she had passed, and kind of passes on the torch. So, we're at the day we're recording this just happens to be the day of her 1-year anniversary. And we're doing so much for her. I know she's proud of us, and she's looking down and smiling, and we're going to keep on making her proud, making sure her legacy lives on forever.
Well, you certainly represented her well, and on this anniversary, which is an unfortunate one. We've had them at our house too, but I think today was a great day, unbeknownst to me, to do the podcast and have you talk about her, how she was so foundational in creating this amazing thing that you're doing, and how far it's come. I mean, you guys have grown into a pretty amazing organization in a very short period of time, which is in no doubt the result of your hard work, as well as those around you who believe in what you're doing and contribute their time and effort to help you as well.
We have 2 full-time employees. I'm very proud of that. 2 full-time employees, a few contractors, and the rest interns.
Yeah.
And it is hard to do, but we're going to have to expand, and hence the building and the administrative office.
So Alex, we kind of got wrapped up in the conversation. Hopefully you were there enjoying it. Anything that we didn't give you a chance to add or ask about? You're still on mute.
It does help you hear me better if I'm not muted, doesn't it?
I think it's better.
So not so much to add, but I may have missed this when I was dealing with, speaking of dogs, ours was going nuts because there was somebody at the front porch. But How do people get involved with your program? Like, are you accepting volunteers, interns? Just what do people need to do if they share your passion and would like to help you along this journey?
Yeah, it's difficult right now. We've had people do fundraisers and different events for us. And that's a very good question because we get it all the time. The downside is with a staff of 2 people and a couple contractors and interns, it's hard for me to fly out to be at that event or like, hey, we want to hold a fundraiser. What we have done is I have shipped materials to people. We have someone who's running the Boston Marathon this year. He created a link to our account where people can go and donate. He had a goal of fundraising, had his story on there. We have that through our donation platform where people can set up separate fundraisers, and then we will help promote that through the link. Some people want to volunteer. Some want to come to the kennels. Well, the kennels aren't built yet. So we have to kind of get all that infrastructure in place. That's the downside of growing so fast as an organization, is that infrastructure isn't there quite yet. Once we get the office in place, we could have more interns in there. And we're using a graphic design intern right now. And he's doing great work. He's making videos for us. He's doing amazing things where it's, helping him through his college career and helping him probably land a job when he gets out of service. Just much like this podcast might be helping you expand your career and when you get into service and do things. So we want to encourage help, but it also takes supervision from my end or other people on our staff's end. So, people who want to do fundraisers, can reach out to us. They're kind of easy to do where we can raise money. We can help you with some promotional material and do things. But right now we're also waiting till we kind of get the office space and get a few more of those important infrastructure pieces there where we can really start holding more events that involve more personal interaction.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I know you mentioned having the approval of other members of your team or the supervision of other members of your team. In the future, are you trying to grow to a point where you almost have like little sub-chapters, almost like what Habitat for Humanity does, where you can go and there are different groups in different parts of the country, different parts of the world that can accomplish the same mission by acting independently. So it would take some strain off of you and some strain off of the 2 full-time staff members you have.
Yeah, we are looking at that, and I already have the position in mind for a community events and manager who would manage those community events throughout the nation, who would be a point of contact to reach out to, and then maybe manage a couple regional coordinators like you mentioned. That all can be done, but without having the office space right now. They kind of work from home, and we're not quite at the level where I feel comfortable paying a salary for that position yet. Although I think when we do, if it's done correctly, it can pay for itself. Meaning if they made X number of dollars a year, that we could probably raise 10 times that much through the events that they're holding. So excellent questions. All things we're going to do in the future, but keep in mind we're still in year 4, and we're trying to take care of as many dogs as we can. We're also trying to spread awareness of that mission. So I would look for that, Alex, to come out probably about a year after we get that office in place and we can start having some dedicated space to manage that.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Jason, you have my personal gratitude for joining us. I'm leaving here feeling fired up and inspired. So I appreciate you giving me the energy boost for sure. And sharing this story with my listeners. I hope it inspires them to help you, as well as for people that have a vision and a passion of how they can contribute back to the community as a whole, whether it's canines or homeless issues or any of those things. Hopefully they can hear that through your commitment that this is possible. It takes time and it takes hard work, but it is possible. So thank you for sharing that. We'll definitely be staying in touch with your mission, and any way that we can help, we're here for you. So thank you so much, Jason.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And we look forward to coming back on in the future and talking about more initiatives after we accomplish the ones that we're currently working on.
Awesome.
But I leave everybody with this, and I'll show another. This is for those on video here. This is Flash's award. This is her medal from the Hero Dogs, Dog of the Year. That they spent their entire life protecting us, so I am going to spend the rest of mine protecting them.
That's great, man. Well, thank you so much to all the listeners. We appreciate you guys. Hope you had enjoyed the episode. We've got a bunch coming out lately. I have more coming with other veterans and charity type organizations, as well as we just recorded the third episode in the series with Lori Blatt regarding marketing. So that'll be coming out on Tuesday. So thanks to all the listeners. Alex, thank you for joining. Also, Alex is the horsepower behind the scenes when you see our edits of the recordings, the videos, and my son Daniel, who is the musical mastermind. So when you hear the musical intros and outros, that's recorded by my other son Daniel. So I appreciate all the work that those guys do too. All right, everybody, thank you, and we will talk to you soon.